the first part of today, which will be focusing on Kilbourne. The second to be the Civil War. Now, both of these are going to involve active learning, which means I hope you all brought your cell phones, and I hope you brought your laptops, because you're going to be going out and doing research for yourself on this one. Y'all are very quiet for a, shouldn't y'all be excited it's fall break? Oh, that's right, it's not fall break today. That's why you're not getting excited. Which one? How did it go yesterday at the exhibition? For the 2017 movie? Did you go okay? Yeah, the job at the exhibition game? So pay special attention today to what we do, because you'll probably see it on the exam, the second exam, especially in essay form. Remember how I do things. You know, I take a synthesis of the reading or summary of the reading, put it together for you, and then what I do is those I spend a lot more time on are more likely to be essays. So when I'm putting together the second exam, when is the second exam? October. When? Ready for that. We've got 2 more exams coming on up. Now, what I was trying to get across with the de Tocqueville argument is he talked about differences between American men and women. Oh, by the way, if you're a little bit late, remind me so I can put it on the 10-inch. And what I thought I'd do is take a look at images of how American women are portrayed in the media then and now, as well as how French women, because remember, Alexis de Tocqueville is from France. And so I generated some of these iconic images from the United States and from France as well. So got American politicians, got French politicians. Yeah, France has not had a head of state, just like we haven't had a head of state yet. This one was the presidential candidate. She's the only presidential candidate who has ever, led like a major party, and she lost a close election about 10 years ago or so. Her husband is currently the president of France, so he won in a rematch. And the other woman is the head of the IMF, and she's from France. Her name is Christiane Lagarde. And you may recognize some of these iconic images as well. Anybody recognize them? Either the characters or either the scenes. Have y'all ever seen it? Any guesses? Y'all have like big fans of history or something? No guesses? Yeah, Joan of Arc. Okay, good. What else you got? And maybe not so much a person, but an event. Go ahead, Brandon, you were saying.
Well, it's their independent war.
Yeah, or the French Revolution.
Yeah, you can see the color red, white, and blue in there.
It's the tricolored flag. Yeah, before that wasn't the French flag, that was the flag of the Revolution. Before then it was white with a series of gold fleur-de-lis, which is used by the Boy Scouts as their symbol for reasons I haven't figured out. Looks like the Saints uniform there. Yeah, symbol of France. But that's what the flag used to look like. So every so often when you see like the Six Flags, like Six Flags over Georgia, or when I was raised in Texas, we would look at the Six Flags that have been over. They don't show the current French flag, the tricolored flag. They show the French royal flag, because long ago they had a piece of Texas. So anything jump out at you about the images? We can see how American women are portrayed, how French women are portrayed, both in historic terms as well as politicians, right? Rosie the Riveter, you have pioneer women and American politicians as well. Similar, different? Oh, you may not know because you were kind of young, but that's Sarah Palin down there. She's the last big over. Oh, okay, so you do recognize. Okay, I was beginning to wonder like how young y'all really are. It's like, do we remember 8 years ago? And of course, Hillary Clinton, who's like, I don't know, running for something. What do you think? Does it show equality in treatment? Because some people said maybe de Tocqueville's argument fits an earlier time, the 1830s, but does it fit today? Do you sense similarity and differences in the or differences in the issues, or excuse me, the images?
It seems like the ones for America are more staged and they're more like set up to look a certain way, whereas the ones here, it's like snapshots of them in action.
Oh, okay. Wait, you're saying like okay, whereas static image for
Yeah,
America
where like they're
versus-
posed to look
Oh,
a
okay.
certain way here, and they're not posed there.
Okay, so it shows more action. What do you think about what de Tocqueville was saying about how French women are held up in society in those days versus American? Does it kind of fit with what de Tocqueville was saying? Look at then versus now. Okay. No, I mean the top images. Sort of the Americans of the 1800s to early 1900s, early to mid 1900s versus the French images from the late 1700s, painted probably in the 1800s, to what, 1600s. Actually, that image for Joan of Arc is used as a World War I recruiting poster. So it's from 1914. So you've got two images from the World Wars. You've got two iconic images from the 1800s. What are you seeing? Is the lighting good?
Well, I was saying like it doesn't seem like it fits with me. He was talking like they didn't have any kind of, they couldn't do anything outside like their boundaries, but they did what they are.
Okay. So in other words, what's different is it shows French women playing a major role. Is that what you're saying? Okay, that's part of it. What else do you notice about how the women are portrayed? Like you said, I've got moving actions. I've got women playing important roles. Anything else? Remember what de Tocqueville said how the French women are treated, or European women are treated?
It's like I kind of got the vibe that they had to like fight for themselves, like his one thing he said was.
Oh, a more independent-minded street.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, it's a young Joan of Arc. It's not like sort of a Catholic conservative Joan of Arc. I mean, it's kind of a youngish character. You know, eyes looking up. You got that pureness. You've got innocence. The other gal is basically falling out of her dress, leading a charge. It's seen as one of these iconic images where people are trying to link revolution and political activity with sex. I mean, that's what they're doing, for lack of a better term for it. I mean, there's a reason I don't have this covering the entire page. Let's put it that way. I mean, it's a famous, iconic image, but they were trying to appeal to more than just people's politics in this. How about all of the portrayals of women who are politicians today? Anything jump at you? That's good. You don't like getting nothing out of my students. So that's more than I've got from other classes. Well, this seems Anything jump out at you? How they're looking, how they dress, all the stuff guys never noticed.
Just very conservatively. For the most part.
Just
Yeah, she's showing off.
very conservative. I guess it's got to be hard, not knowing much about fashion or how to carry oneself. And usually, if I pick an outfit for something I'm going to go to, I kind of have to check my wife. Going, okay, does this look good enough? If it's for someone really important, she goes, then I know I got to do something. I don't know. Do women have to dress conservatively? Do guys have to dress conservatively? Did you watch any of the debate last night? Any of the first debate? Aren't you under pressure for a lot of like how you have to dress, how you have to conduct yourself? Something to think about. Speaking of that and how women dress, what are the 2 ways a woman can get hurt?
Advertising.
Okay, advertising. Advertising. Okay, that's not how you expect. Like, if you're thinking about all the ways you can get hurt during a day, advertising doesn't seem like one that would be on the high list. What was the other one? Yeah, okay. That one seems a little more obvious, but advertising, how is that possible?
Because you can not set a standard, but you can make people, through advertising, you can make people look at women in a way that's not like fair to them. You know what I mean? I think Kilborn's doing more you get hurt, like, just talking about like putting women in positions and scenarios in advertising that makes them seem like submissive and things like that.
Okay. So in other words, the ads are trying to teach people how you're supposed to look and how you're supposed to act. I think that's Kilborn's point. Do we all agree on that? And she certainly has like a fair number of images that she includes in the article. How many of y'all have your books? Okay, so we got a couple. All right, when you have the books, if you can pull them on out. Because we'll definitely need them today. So if you got books, look on with a, here, you didn't raise your hands. I was wondering, only 4 people. Okay, so we got about 5. And what is okay, so that's one connection. So Jacob has provided us, like saying that how women are posed in various images could be suggestive of violence against women. What else? What was the other factor that she's looking at when she's thinking about ads?
And what it says.
What it says, okay,
And
so,
the slogans.
okay, so sometimes the words,
Sometimes it's not even the words. I mean, didn't she talk about one that was like a tie ad? It was like a bunch of ties laying on a bed. The bed's all messed up, and it was like asking.
nothing so obvious or so.
Yeah.
I mean, discussion about ads and subtle messages are all the rage. When I was in graduate school, there was, I forget which clothing company it was, but it was, you saw a white hand and a black hand next to each other. They're both wearing a suit and they both had handcuffs linking the 2 of them. And it said that, like 2 groups were linked together or so. And that got people up in arms, saying like, well, it sounded like one is arresting the other or something like that. And the people put together the suit ad were saying, no, that's not what I'm saying. We're saying that we're linked, like we share common bonds together. White and black together. So they saw it as a message of racial unity. Others said, oh, this looks like one person's arresting another person. Like you've both been accused of, like, I guess because you're wearing a suit, white collar crime or something. What was the other way that she said that women can get hurt? Not just by subtle and implied violence, not just the image and the words. What was the other one? Go ahead, Elizabeth. Okay, you got advertising. advertising and violence, but what's another way? Maybe not one that involves necessarily violence, but she said another problem that ads have.
Like, envy.
Okay, we're still on that advertising, but beyond violence. Okay, I got you. Images, I got words. What was the other?
It creates a false standard.
Okay, what's the standard that she's speaking about? You're right, but what?
About the way they have to look and act.
Okay. And what's this way that women are being portrayed in ads that you have to look a certain way?
You have to have the ideal body.
Okay. If you ever get a chance, Tina Fey, anybody know who Tina Fey is? Not personally, but I mean. Incidentally, one of our students, Megan Thompson, is working second stage where Tina Fey got her start. It was someone who graduated last year, and so she's pretty much on the Tina Fey path, so I thought that was kind of cool. One of my cornerstone students. So more often than not, there'll be people who will graduate from here and they'll be like, oh my gosh, look at what they did. And you're like, from where? From LaGrange College. Don't set yourself too short, Holly. It's okay to be ambitious. But Tina Fey has a long segment in her book. And it's also, we have the book on CD, so if you have to take a road trip, you gotta, it's funny as hell, but at the same time when we drove up on a trip to Huntsville, when we listened to it, we had to turn the volume way down for the kids sometimes. So it's a bit bawdy, so don't play it around younger kids. And I swear, like the kids were like pretending to play video games or read books, and they're like craning their ears trying to hear what forbidden fruit we're listening to. She has a whole segment about what it's like to do a photo shoot, because they tried to get her up for a photo shoot along the lines of what Gene Kilborn is describing. If I can actually find that, and we got a little time later this semester, I think I should play it for you. It's very eye-opening, but the whole point is she's being portrayed in a very unrealistic way. Something that a standard most people can't live up to. So she plays it for fun. I mean, makes fun of the whole process, but that's what happened. An unhealthy body type, an unhealthy look. How is this similar to what de Tocqueville was writing in? Or is it similar? What's your thought, Brandon? What's your, the arguments that she's making? What are the similarities, what are the differences?
I thought it was interesting that in this particular one, she focused a lot on how advertising was almost encouraging rape, but in de Tocqueville's, they said that the United States, like rape was not an option, like anything, like sexual harassment or anything would be, immediately disciplined, immediately against the law. So they kind of contrasted in that way.
Okay. You set this up very well for our first test of today. Everybody got your books? Okay, raise your hand if you got books. Raise it high. Don't go like this. Don't alligator arm it. Put it on up there. Y'all know what alligator arming is, right? They got really short arms. Like they say, when the pass is thrown to somebody, they're not really trying to catch it because they're afraid they're going to get hit. So they just kind of alligator arm. You kind of raise your hand. You're not really sure. Okay, if you got books, here's what we should do. Pair up somebody who doesn't have a book. Raise your hand if you don't have your book. Okay, go sit with somebody who does. Sit right next to them. If you're not next to that person, go sit next to somebody who does have their book. Okay. Everybody got it over here? Okay, good. I'll see. It looked like only 4 people raised your hands. Most of you brought your book. That's very good. Okay. Can't do this test unless we do. Okay, here's what you need to do. All right, starting Wes, you got the first ad. Jacob, you got the second ad. Elizabeth, you got the third ad. Brittany, you got the fourth ad. Team Kadarius and Megan, you got the fifth ad. So count them forward. Jacob and Bruno, you got the sixth ad. Andy and Gerard, you got the seventh ad. Alex, you got the eighth ad. Brandon, you got the ninth ad. Jordan and Jacob, are you sharing? All right, you got the 10th ad. Do you see there is a company, right? For the 10th ad, first ad, second ad, whichever ad you have. Where's that company? Is it from Europe or is it from America? Macy's? Who owns Macy's? Oh, take a look. So get out your cell phones and do a little search. Macy's sounds American. Miller Beer sounds American. Harley Davidson sounds American. Is it American owned though?
You want us to look up and see where the company?
Look up where the company's from. Because, as Megan points out, there's a contrast because in America, you shouldn't be seeing these kinds of things. In Europe, you should be seeing them all over. So are they European or American?
You see the wolf
I don't
Feel free to use Google. Our brother works for him. Give him some business.
Yes, it was founded in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay, so it's founded there, but is it owned?
Huh?
Is it owned? Because just because it has an American name doesn't mean it's an American company. It could be owned. It could be foreign owned. Burger King's owned by Canada.
Was owned by Procter and Gamble.
Okay, American company. I saw somebody at the cotton picking fair this weekend and had a shirt that said America. Apostrophe. Is it American or American? So, everybody having luck? Raise your hand if you found out who owns the company. Okay, so the rest of you searching?
Produced by British companies.
Dial up slow here. What you got, Gerard?
I found that they,
P&G.
yeah, they own the old spice
Yeah, okay, so Cincinnati, Ohio.
How come I wrote down 3?
You got what? I was just joking about dial-up. I assume if you have cell phones, you don't have dial-up. There's the joke. Go ahead, Brittany, what you got?
No, I have a question.
Oh, you have a question? Okay.
Well, he said something. So I just Googled.
Does it say where the watches are? Okay, if it doesn't say, go to number 11. Add number 11. What you got, Wes? Find out your headquarters? St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah, Old Spice's headquarters in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio. So you got two out of 10.
The people who founded it are both from the United Kingdom.
Interesting.
Bloomingdale's, New York City.
What you got?
I'm pretty sure it's still American because, Fred Lazarus is who founded it.
Okay.
And he said he's a Jewish American.
Okay. All right, what you got? What's yours?
Bloomingdale's, New York based. This is the daughter from the season.
Okay, so you got one from Bloomingdale's. What you got, Andy? Oh, same one. Oh, okay. Alex, what have you found? What's your company? It's where? Oh, it didn't say. Let's see, go to add 12. How's that sound? Brandon, what you got? It's which one? Yeah, what's the company?
I know it's
Okay. So you figure out like who makes the velvet hammer trick. What you got, Jacob and Jordan?
It was founded in Moscow, but
Oh, it's
produced by a British company.
Interesting. Oh, they went one step further where it's actually produced.
You can buy it for $4.
Oh my gosh. What, the ad or the drink?
I'm thinking this is just like a copy of that.
Oh, okay.
I got the recipe.
The recipe. Y'all find amazing you can find. What do you got for velvet hammer? Who's making it? It is doesn't say who makes it. What's the, oh, you gotta look here, F. Scott. Go ahead, what you got, Jacob?
Evidently, it's a symbol for the Illuminati.
What's a symbol for the Illuminati?
Yes. Smart on.
Y'all know what the Illuminati is, right? We tell you, but then we'd have to kill you. What you got, Brittany?
I have a hard time finding
Okay.
it's what in.
We actually, so Macy's was who made the ad, but the actual product is from France.
Like that fully close.
Kind of a split decision.
You know,
So what are we finding? Evidence for a link to de Tocqueville's argument? Something similar, something different? Scott, what's this? Okay, where are they made?
St. Louis.
Oh yeah, it's at St. Louis. Okay, so I did catch on that one. Great shirt, by the way, Britt. Look for the storytelling group. Okay, so we find some American companies, some European companies. Is that correct? Probably just as many American. And I mean, you could go through this if you wanted to. If your research was on this, you could go through all the ads that Kilborn featured. But do you understand what we're trying to do? She's making an argument. She's making an assertion. There's nothing wrong with making an argument or assertion, but in other words, it's good to know where these companies are. I mean, is this an American thing or is this a European thing? Is it where the ad's showing? This is what's going, this is kind of myth busting if you think about it, right? Going through where it is. All right. Another thing to look at is how prevalent such ads are. In other words, are we looking at a couple exceptions? Is she holding up, let's say, the Dirty Dozen, the worst ads of these kinds? How prevalent are we likely to see such ads?
Well, it depends on who you are and what you read and what you watch. I mean, like, as a guy, reading Sports Illustrated, maybe see some of these, I'm pretty sure Good Housekeeping, you probably wouldn't see most of these. So I think it really varies on person to person on whether you see this or not.
Okay. I've had previous classes go out and we would look at, bring in a series of magazines because I get ESPN the magazine. So people go through and we looked at how many ads from ESPN the magazine fit this criterion. And we debate about it. I brought in an AJC, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and we looked through the ad section to see how many ads fit this criterion. Is there one that we can do where we can look up ads online? We don't have to leave the classroom. For my online class, I have people go to, I think their movie posters might be one, because they're advertisements for movies, aren't they? They're full-page ads. Where do y'all go to if you want to look up like what movies are coming? What movie site do you go to? Or do y'all not watch movies? I go to Redbox, Dr. Travis.
I just got an app on my phone.
Got an app on your phone. What kind of app is it? Does it say like local theaters or something?
Yeah, it's Flickster, and it shows like what's out.
Cool. Do they have posters on it so that like you can see posters? Okay, go to Flickster. That sounds good. What's another spot that you go to look up movies? Fandango. Okay. Hold up. Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, everybody grab a different one. Yahoo Movies. If y'all have cell phones, go ahead and look it up on your phone. How prevalent are ads, let's say just in one category, movies? Understand it's not going to be every single advertisement, but movie ads today. What's another site? So we got Rotten Tomatoes, we got Fandango. Anybody go to IMDb? Y'all know what that is, right? Internet Movie Database. Who wants IMDb? All right, Gerard's got it. Yahoo Movies? I'm old school, so that's where I go.
I'm
Alex
old.
got it. What do you got?
Yahoo movies.
Cool. Is there Google Movies? Google's into everything. I'm sure they got a movie section. Take a look.
I know, like, if you Google, like, Carmack Cinemas, 10 LaGrange,
Ooh, okay. we can't just have, how about, do they have theater posters? You theater majors? Do they do theater posters to hype a movie? I know they did when I was a college student. Do they do it now?
I know movie theater back home, like outside, like on the walls, and
Right.
they've got like their show times, and they've got like a poster up and
Okay.
everything.
But how about theater as in drama?
Okay.
You know, Tony Award winning stuff. Do they have a section where you can look up like what plays are being performed, what posters are there? Which one are you gonna look up, Brandon? What's your ad? Oh, you're looking at Yahoo
Yeah,
Movies. Jordan, you got a cell phone?
Yes, sir.
Everybody's got a cell phone, isn't that cool? Awesome. Which one are you gonna look at? To see how prevalent such ads are. What's something I hadn't thought of yet? Something from the entertainment industry. Don't they have something called like ETV? Wait, don't they do posters for TV shows? Or what's showing on Netflix?
Found one called Coming Soon, that bit.
Go for it.
They did one for the play Chicago. I
You
can't
want us to click on the ads?
Well, take a look at the ads. Scroll through it. See, do they fit what Kimber's saying? Are these ads that she's showing in her book the exception or the rule?
When you click on
This is the play that the school did for Chicago.
Oh yeah. Is that our poster? I think it is. Yes. I wonder how it compares to the Chicago, the movie that came out. Got to take a look at that. What do you see? Anything? What are the ads? Tasteless, pretty tame. What do we got? Does it fit with what Kilburn's saying? Is there just maybe one or two movies or no movie posters that fit this criterion? In other words, de Tocqueville's conception of America, or is it more like Kilburn's conception of America? Who's right? Two different readings, two different conclusions. Your evidence. What are you finding?
Are you asking about the movie posters themselves or
Yeah.
the ads found on those?
Either one. Just looking for a collection of ads, random collections of ads for people. Okay. In other words, will you find, I don't know, 1 out of 10? 5 out of 10? 9 out of 10? What are you finding? What do you see? I can't see all of them at once unless you show them to me.
I think it depends on where you're looking, like where,
So this is kind of what Jacob was saying earlier about like it's targeted based on what you read. Like certain audiences are getting certain targets. It'll be different from the Sunday section of the Columbus Ledger Inquirer. What do you see? What are you finding, Jacob? What are you finding, Elizabeth? There you go, tons of them. Pretty innocuous? Or pretty problematic?
I mean, I think they're, like, movie posters, they're gonna be pretty conservative with it, I mean, because if you go on out there with it and you make somebody mad, they're probably less likely to come see your movie, so probably just want to hold back the.
and I think with movie posters too, you want to target as big of an audience as you can to get to come to see your movie. Whereas something like alcohol, where you're expecting to have a good time and to, you know, your expectations might be a little bit different than just going and sitting and watching a good movie. You know, in that case, they would sexualize it. Kadarius was just looking up advertisements for vodka, and it's absolutely ridiculous.
No pun intended.
It literally is. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh my
These
God.
advertisements for vodka, and it's like it's not even about the alcohol. It's about like what you could get because of the the alcohol. So I think it depends on what you're looking at.
And the thing I thought was most scary about my 13-year-old daughter, my 8-year-old son, was the alcohol itself. So what you're saying is the ads could be even more trouble.
Yeah,
Oh my God, you're right.
like the ads aren't even focused on the alcohol, it's just
Well,
sexualizes all of it.
That's like the Hardee's commercials
Right.
now.
What's the Hardee's commercials?
Have you not seen any of the Hardee's commercials?
You may have to remind me.
Very attractive women eating Hardee's food.
Hardee's?
Yeah.
Hardee's, like that stuff that's like 50 grams of fat just by looking at it?
Yeah,
Like big burgers and stuff, it was like,
Like
barbecue
a-
sauce all over it. Yeah, it is not good.
Yeah, it's just,
Okay.
it's literally like a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition photo shoot, and then they take a bite of a burger, pretty
I
much.
mean, you would have
It's
to,
like, go to Hardee's, try this.
I mean, you would have to go on like a Lenten, like fasting after eating one of those things.
It might make food taste good.
Oh, I'm sure it tastes good.
Something like that.
I'm a runner, I could have a deer gut if I ate one of those things.
That's ridiculous. But here's one too that's
But
like
Dr. Trish, you've really never seen any of the Hardee's
for the
commercials.
guy.
They're
I
pretty-
may have to look for them on YouTube just to see.
They're pretty out there.
Okay.
That's a little bit.
See, commercials during sport, I tend to watch a lot of sporting events,
Yeah.
grade during some of them, during downtime, and I grade furiously during commercials,
They,
so I
they
tend
come
not
on
to
there,
see.
they come on ESPN all the time.
Oh my gosh. See, maybe this is a point. I got a question for you. How many of you, before you came in today, how many of you thought about what you were looking at? I mean, before you did the reading. How many of you are like, oh my gosh, look at these things, they're so over the top? Or is it just a matter of, oh, wait a second, now I see it everywhere, once you know to look for it?
We did, in my English 1101 in high school, we did ad analysis for like a full month, and we wrote like 2 papers on it.
Oh, okay, so you're already trained it, so, I mean, you're saying, how many of this is like subtle stuff where we didn't think about it until we're actually seeking it out?
A bunch of it like that.
Where it's kind of subtle, if you think about it, right? All of a sudden you notice it everywhere. It's like when we were at beach in Hampton, Virginia. I took my son on out and I had him kind of, we were swimming out at a distance, and all of a sudden my nephew started yelling and stuff, a jellyfish had stung him. And I looked around, and all of a sudden it's like I just had never noticed them. Suddenly there are jellyfish everywhere. I didn't think that there were any, and I thought, oh, crud. So I put my son up on my shoulders, and I walked back, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be stung like 10 times for the number of jellyfish. And it was like something biblical where a person must have had their arms up on the beach, like somehow I just passed through all of them, and I didn't get stung once. But it was one of those, I just didn't even notice. I didn't think to look for jellyfish. I didn't think jellyfish were in season. And then all of a sudden when you look more closely, because they're kind of transparent almost, then you see them everywhere. I mean, to this day, it's got to be, I mean, if I submit it to Rome, it might be considered a miracle. The sad thing is my brother-in-law was standing, like he didn't go out the shore because he doesn't like jellyfish. He stood about this far from the shore, a little tiny wave washed him, and a jellyfish came in around him and stung him in the ankle. He was this far out. I was up to here in jellyfish, and I never got stung once.
I mean, ads are kind of like the same way. It's never like, most of them are never like a straightforward message like, hey, buy this, it can help you with limit. It's just like, we're not saying it, but we're saying it.
Oh yeah, some are like a shark fin. Whoa, there is danger. You know, it's like the shark is like, hey, you better get out of the water pretty quick. And other times, it's like maybe you don't even notice how many. Because when we were watching, or when we looked at the AJC, there were so many times where people are like, oh my gosh, I must see this like 10 times a day. I never thought about it.
Some of these,
That's gross.
some of these, like, the pictures, you see them like on the front of books, but that's where I see like pictures like men with 2 women on the side, and women like being pawned up in the back. I see those kind of pictures on the front of books, but like I don't think I ever seen stuff like this.
Perhaps the one she's showing are a little over the top. Anybody find anything out in your ads that's as over the top as what Kilburn is showing? Over the top being controversial. Vodka, okay, yeah, you showed me that. Anybody got anything? Not like I need to see it, but just you can show it here. I'm not looking, ooh, let me see the picture. No, I'm not gonna.
Here's the Hardee's one.
Yeah,
I
they're
really need to.
Here's Hardee's. And
Burger is
then
bigger than she is.
This one's Burger King.
wheat for the future. Okay, but do you see what we're doing here? Does everybody see what we're doing here? The moral of the story goes beyond the ads. It goes beyond Kilborn. It goes beyond de Tocqueville. What are we really trying to do here? We're trying to look for ourselves. When an argument is made, we're trying to check it for ourselves. Myth busted, myth confirmed, plausible, what's our outcome? What do you think, Jake?
I really don't, it's prevalent, but it's not everywhere.
Is de Tocqueville wrong? Go ahead, Jacob.
Clothing ads are pretty bad.
The what?
The clothing ads are pretty bad too.
So maybe America has become more like Europe? Is that what's happened? With de Tocqueville, if he came to America today, well, it'd be freaky because it'd be like a zombie, but if he came back to America, let's say in a time machine, would he say, oh, I gotta revise my writing? The America today is a lot more like the America of my day. Are we arguing with Kilborn? Are we just seeing a couple of these ads? Not one that's represented. What's your take, Alex? Very diplomatic. I had somebody did their paper, by the way, about like a shoe, like the thin shoes that are like super light or so. Was trying to research for himself like which kinds of injuries and who wore what shoes. Basketball shoes. So I mean the point is that we're looking, the whole point of this class is to be looking for ourselves. You know, people will be making arguments all the time. How much support is there? Why was the Civil War fought? Y'all went to, who went to school in the South? Okay, a lot of you, very good. Anybody homeschooled? Okay. Did you, homeschooled or not, did you cover the Civil War? Okay, why do we have a Civil War? Almost any time that we look at why a war is fought, we look at the start of it. So, what was covered in your school? Why was the Civil War fought?
Slavery.
Okay, one argument says slavery.
As social differences.
Okay, social or cultural differences.
The Confederacy wanted to leave the
Okay, the Confederacy. But why did the Confederacy want to leave the Union? We got an argument for slavery, one for social differences. What else?
They wanted to be self-governed.
Self-governed. What's the term that people use for self-governance? States' rights. People use the argument that it's all about states' rights. Anything else? I teach international political economy. Isn't there another argument people gave? States' rights. Well, it's kind of an economic argument. You ever come across this one? I'm teaching international political economy. And in this class we talk a lot about a T word. It's a tax on trade. Anybody come across that term? Tariffs, yeah. That the South wanted lower tariffs and the North wanted higher tariffs. Because the South are full of conservatives and the North is full of good old liberals. Good old conservatives versus good. It's a big tax argument. Okay? How many have heard these arguments before? What did y'all decide? How would you go? Because otherwise, aren't we just armchair historians looking and going, yeah, I think it was about this. I think it was about that. I was at a conference in Jacksonville State University with 4 LaGrange College students. There were a bunch of arguments going on, and we wound up arguing the Civil War and why it was fought. What would be the best way to figure out why the Civil War was really fought?
Okay, what would happen before it?
Okay, you can look at before, and yeah, we found what was the video implying? America, the story of us. When we watched Division. When we get to baby boom era, we can call it multiplication. I'm just trying to joke at you, Austin. Why don't we look at we can't go back in time and interview them. We can't bring them forward or get them on Skype from beyond the afterlife. But why don't we look at their words? Does that sound fair? Let's see. Anybody from Georgia? Okay, a bunch of Georgians. Look. This is the document Georgia gave on January 29, 1861 to say, this is why we're leaving the Union. This is why we are seceding. Make sense? And I'll put it in the document. Okay. We've got a couple others. Anybody here from South Carolina? If so, tell your family members to get to higher ground. Because that hurricane's coming. Look, they left on Christmas Eve. They took their Christmas Eve off to make sure that they had seceded. Did y'all know that? So, secession day is for them. All right, let's see, who else we got? Confederate States, a declaration of the causes which impelled the state of Texas to secede from the federal union. The state I was raised in, Texas. And yes, Texans always think everything in Texas is bigger. All right. How about one more? Anybody from Texas, by the way? Anybody from Mississippi? Anybody been to Mississippi?
Yep.
Mississippi secession. Why Mississippi is leaving the Union. Wow, Mississippi went short on the assignment. I would take 2 points off. All right, so we got 15 pages worth of documents from 4 southern states saying why they left the Union. Now, what was that argument again? Let's see. How about states' rights? We can take a look for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Let's have states' rights go first. States, isn't this cool? In technology grant. States' rights. Can y'all see? No matches. States' right. Maybe they didn't use apostrophes. No. How about they put apostrophe at the end, like they're supposed to? No. 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 Any other? All right. Our rights were further fortified by the practice of the government from the beginning. Slavery was forbidden in the country, northwest of Ohio. So in other words, it's about the rights of enslaved. How about Dr. Turris's? When I did this study, I thought I was going to show people it's all about tariffs. No. How about tariff with 1 F? How about with 2 R's? 2 R's and 2 F's. Tariff is never mentioned. Social differences. Wait, culture. How about we look up culture? What's a good word to use, Jacob? Agriculture. So we got 1 mention for agriculture. Is given indubitable evidence of its design to ruin our agriculture. Okay, so we got 1 mention of agriculture. Could it be about cotton? Rice? Rice is good. Oh, the price. Not going well here. Plantation? Plantation! Actually, that refers to a plantation in Rhode Island. Their name at the time was the Plantations of Rhode Island and Providence, which is the biggest island of the Rhode Island. That's where the capital is. I don't know. Should we go with the S word?
Slave.
Let's see if they mention slavery. What do you see? 82 times. Slave or slavery is mentioned. Anybody here have relatives who fought for the Confederacy? You can trace it all the way back to the Confederacy. We had a professor whose ancestor was caught or captured from the southern side of the Battle of Chancellorsville. I showed him a map where it was. There's even a little image of like some people surrendering to Union. So I think people in the South can trace their ancestors back to the Confederate States of America Army. So yeah, for a lot of people it was about slavery. Well, maybe not a lot of people. Let's see what Robert E. Lee thought about. I mean, isn't he the South's greatest general, right? Robert E. Lee fought for the South. Robert E. Lee's 11th hour proposal of enlisting slaves into the Confederate Army. So in other words, like giving slaves guns. You could win your freedom by serving in the Confederate States of America. Interesting. Did Robert E. Lee call slavery evil? Yeah, I think this. Yeah. He owned slavery, or he owned slaves. But he actually spoke out against slavery in the Virginia state legislature, calling it an unmitigated evil. Patrick Cleburne, who is the best brigadier general west of Virginia, he fought in the Army of Tennessee. He actually was the first to propose the idea that slaves, that the South should free the slaves, give them land and allow them to defend it by serving in the Confederate Army. His proposal was not met with much approval in Richmond. And at the Battle of Franklin, he's put at the vanguard with the intent of him dying. He was only in his 20s, quite an accomplished general. But his views on slavery were considered not good. Think about who wrote the secession documents. Who gets together on Christmas Eve to work, much less write about why we need to leave because of slavery? Who does that? Who serves in the South Carolina state legislature? Who serves in the Georgia legislature? Who serves in the South Carolina legislature? Who does that? Any guesses? Well, who serves in the legislature? Just anyone. Go ahead. It's not that hard. Legislature, like the Georgia General Assembly, South Carolina's Congress, senators, governors. Anything about these folks that we might guess?
Probably wealthy people.
Probably wealthy. Why wealthy?
Because they probably own a plantation with lots.
Remember that place they said, the town they said they had more millionaires than New York City? Natchez, Mississippi. Yeah. The politicians themselves are slave owners, so when they're seceding, it's for slavery. Your individual farmer who's got a small plot of land, probably can't afford slaves, is probably thinking states' rights, or at least their own rights, or defending their home turf. So it's very different from who's in charge politically versus who's on the ground. Does that make sense somewhat? There's a great scene in the movie, or the movie series, you can get ready to go through. I don't want to make it up. It's called The Blue and the Gray. It was a mini-series that came out in the 80s. We all loved it. Everybody watched it. In fact, before we had Netflix, it was like eight hours, so they showed 2 hours a night for a week. And there's a great scene in there where a Yankee and a rebel Southerner, they find themselves in the same foxhole. One lost his firing pin, the other lost his bullet, and rather than get guns and beat each other to death, they decide whoever wins the battle, the loser will surrender to the winner. But they get to talking somewhat, and the guy from the north is like, "What's it like owning slaves?" And you can see this guy from Mississippi, he's like, "Slaves, we didn't even hardly have shoes." He doesn't really have like a real uniform or so. So his reasons are probably very different from, the head of the Georgia General Assembly. So when you were saying it depends for this other end, perhaps why you seceded depends. The individual Southern farmer who can't afford slaves, who's probably being put out of business by slavery, is doing it because they've been told you've got to defend the homeland from invading Yankees. Your Southern generals have very little use for slavery. They can get allies from Britain and France. And Britain and France would recognize the United States and send help if the South does one thing. Anyone know? The South, the Confederate States, they could exist today. They could have gotten help from Europeans if they did one thing. Do you remember the movie from Monday? All they had to do was ban slavery. They could have been their own country, but those politicians didn't want to give up their slaves. That's why the South got hammered. They lost badly. But you see what we did? We're looking through evidence, using the words people said, how frequently a term is mentioned. When rights are mentioned 32 times, by the way. But they're mostly as right to own slaves. See y'all next Monday. We'll cover the America, the Story of Us, Civil War. And we'll start on the next phase of the research project. Sound good? When you come on in, we'll play the movie, then we'll have a discussion about the next paper. Sound good? But otherwise, you've all done your work, so enjoy your break. Showing everybody's grade. And that means you guys will. I was wondering if I did this.